Hello and welcome to episode 18 of Lost in Chronologically Lost, where this time Jin gets even worse.
It doesn't make sense to me. He was so great in the flashbacks.
Yeah, if only there was some sort of production reason as to why things would be so sharply different.
I have no idea what you could possibly be implying.
But anyways, where do we start with this one, Matthew?
Well, Jack, he saw his dad, he's getting up to follow him, I think is the first thing we saw. But really the beginning is finding out that the water is missing, which is not good because Claire needs some water.
Yeah, so the water is missing, which we find out is because Boone stole it in another misguided attempt to help.
Of all of Boone's misguided attempts to help, this is the dumbest. Like, what a stupid idea.
Yeah.
Seriously. Also, this comes up later, but I'm just gonna mention, Sawyer says, you idiots realize water doesn't matter, it's gonna rain sooner or later, and okay, to be fair, you can only survive 3 days without water, and it can go longer than that without raining, but it did rain a couple days earlier, and it feels like they forgot that.
Well, they didn't forget it. If you watch actually the earlier episodes, you can see they use tarps to set up water stations so that the water would get filled, and they just said, oh, we're just running out of that. We don't.
I know, but I agree with Sawyer there. But honestly, once they set this thing up, I think I correctly predicted Sawyer's the red herring here. If they just make Sawyer the thief, that's way too easy, way too simple. It's what everybody would expect.
Yeah, exactly. And this whole thing about the water is, I'll get into it in a minute.
All right.
So Jack is wandering around. Locke says he's going to go find water, which he doesn't do, but he goes to find Jack. So Jack is wandering around, and I just have to think this really ties back to, when he's yelling at the gate agent about, getting his dad on board and everything, because he's he needed this to just be over with his dad, and he was going to have the funeral as soon as he got there, and now it is as far from over as he could possibly get.
There are so many Jack and his dad flashbacks that I don't think it's going to be over for this whole show.
You don't even understand how right you are.
I think that season 6, we're still going to get Jack thinking about his relationship with his dad in what would have been a brand new flashback during those episodes.
Well, actually, I will say season 6, no flashbacks other than Jacob and Richard.
Yeah.
Other than that, no flashbacks.
Huh.
I mean, it was season 6. We had told the whole story of everyone's entire
by
life
now,
at that point.
they knew that was the last season. They knew where they were aiming.
Yeah, they had plot to get through.
Yeah. Anyway,
I actually think this was a brilliant plan. If this was the Man in Black. Because as Jack is, chasing for his father, he falls over a cliff and almost dies.
Yeah, so, I was just oh, what the hell? He just randomly falls over a cliff, which, I guess he got baited, but
Yeah, but Locke saves him. And this is still just a weird scene of,
Locke,
Locke... where the threat is legitimately falling off a cliff. It's that's just...
And Locke was, I don't know, it felt kind of pointless to me. Locke was basically there out of nowhere. I don't know.
The early episodes are trying to paint Locke as sort of a more magical figure, I think.
Yeah. There's that little factor of, is there something more going on with him? And it turns out the something more is trauma.
Yeah, it's, Locke, he always talks this island is special, it's important, you have to let the islands do things, and it's yes, look, it cured your paralysis, and that's great. For you. I don't know if the island's gonna help everyone.
Yeah, I know that, by the time of season 5 stuff, even, Jack is saying, what the island wants. So, at a certain point, I think they all realize there's something going on with the island. But, right now, it's just,
I don't know if you'd remember this, but when Jack is saying, he's it's my purpose to go back to the island and to do this and everything. And
that's Locke speak.
To fix things. Yeah, Kate says, do you know who you sound like? Because he was crazy too. So Kate was not on board.
Okay. But it feels like if I was watching these episodes on my own, for the first time, I would just be thinking, Locke is probably not going to be right. But then, as it goes on, Locke is completely right here, and it's kind of like he didn't know, he just guessed correctly.
Exactly, and that's kind of what's sort of frustrating is that, again, the early show tried to be like, there's a scientific explanation for everything. So all the early seasons, there's scientific explanations, or like at least real world explanations for why things are happening. And so it's like, Locke, you idiot, it's not magic. It's just explainable circumstance. And then the later seasons are like, no, it's magic.
Yeah.
Like, so it's like, oh, he was right.
But anyway,
the island is special. It's the heart of all goodness in the world.
Also, we get a bit of Charlie talking to Claire, and that's still relevant to this because they're talking about Locke, and they're like he's like this old man hunter guy, and they're like, he has 400 knives, and it's like, just thinking of Locke as like the man with all the knives is still just like, he is putting out a persona. He is role playing as this practically.
Yep. And I mean, it is also important in that, Charlie and Claire remain to be flirty. So
yeah, not my thing.
You're still not coming around on it?
We'll have things to say about Charlie this episode.
Okay, but
next episode. But yeah.
I hope they're good things because it was an improvement episode for Charlie.
Oh, you know what? You'll see. Anyway,
so
we get
Hurley
so
says,
I have to mention,
the Chinese people have water.
The Chinese people, come on, Hurley.
First off, racist. Second, so yeah, they got it from Sawyer. So like, oh my god, he has the water, and he's like, no, I just traded it. It's gonna rain. It's fine.
Like, that was the last of his water. It's like, yeah, it's gonna rain. He'd rather have fish. And there's like liquid inside food.
Yeah, especially fish. I mean, come on.
Yeah, they be drinking, glug. But anyway,
also Sawyer gives Kate the marshal's badge.
Yeah. Also, there's that whole awkward scene of she pins him down and he's flirty, and then he pins her down. Oh my god, I
didn't even write that in my notes
like,
because I wanted to forget it.
I'm so glad that Saeed interrupted that.
Oh my god, it's so creepy. I don't understand why people like Sawyer. Honestly, I don't.
I mean, later Sawyer, I've clearly seen
later
that
Sawyer,
something...
I understand more.
Right now, he's... I mean, I'll tell you why they like him here. He's the bad boy.
I know, and I just... See, I like my bad boys to have a kill count of at least 10. That's...
Yeah, you have two types. You have the ones that are just outright serial killers, and the ones that are big buff dumbasses.
Yeah, that's what I like, You can't just be mildly bad like Sawyer. That's just annoying.
Yeah. Anyway, so
Jack and Locke have... again, in retrospect, is a super important conversation because...
Jack is going to be the leader.
The island is special. What if you're not hallucinating? What if everything that happened for a reason? Yeah. And these are all things that are going to come back.
Yeah.
But I don't think they planned it when they... Yeah.
Well, yeah,
this was supposed to be Locke being weird and Jack being rational.
What they were planning here is also Locke is giving Jack the whole speech about how he needs to be a leader, because Locke is just such he's the guy who gives people advice, which we're gonna see a ton of. And it occurred to me that I enjoy seeing Locke like this because it's who I wanted to see him become. This is satisfying, but because I know he's playing a part, it feels like I still want to see that pulled back and see the trauma he's still suffering from. I want to see, others understand everything he's been through,
Oh, trust me. Well, I will say this is, they had that guy with the eye patch. He got files on everyone, so the others know what Locke's life was before this.
Oh, that's going to be interesting. It's now I feel like we're going to get some drama where, they could tell everybody what he's really like, and he's going to want them to not do that.
Mm-hmm.
But also the others are probably going to be weirded out when it's the other's going to be oh yeah, this pathetic old guy, and then Locke is throwing knives at them.
Yeah, so anyway, Jack, he goes to the jungle and eventually he finds a stream by some caves, and his father's empty coffin. And this is people said that this is a weird mystery of why is his dad's body not there? I'm it fell out of a plane. It just fell somewhere on the island.
But the coffin was closed.
Or it fell through the air, the body fell out, and then when it landed on the ground, it slammed closed.
But it's not... I feel You know what? There are a lot of things where I feel
also, even if that's not a good enough explanation, the Man in Black has a reason to not let Jack see it, so that he's still driving him crazy. So
Yeah.
the Man in Black could have just closed it. Like, what? That's not real.
Yeah, that's true. We can blame it all on him.
It landed by the Man in Black's old house, so...
Yeah. I just feel like, I just feel disappointed that his body isn't there, so we can't get Jack and Claire seeing the body and being like, wait, this is your dad? This is my dad.
Yeah, well... I think the writers are thanking themselves that they didn't do that, because they hadn't come up with the sibling plotline yet, and are like,
Oh!
we can get away with Claire not having recognized it.
As long as there is a sibling plotline.
There is.
Oh, boy. Alright.
I mean, it's not gonna not come up. I mean, you know.
Yeah.
So of course Jack, because he's going through like everything, just destroys the coffin. And we have, Boone brings Claire some water, which makes everyone realize.
Charlie is just like, what the hell are you doing? And it's like, he stole it to try and make it so she can exclusively have it and nobody else. And it's like, by doing that, you kept her from having water when she needed it. Like, of all of the there was an attempt things with Boone, this is just the worst. Like, honestly, yeah, I get it. You want to prioritize the pregnant woman's health. I'm not sure if that extends to depriving everybody else of water.
I think his thing was, we're running out, so I will take the water, and I will just give it out when it is absolutely necessary. And then he says, I wanted to bring it to Claire earlier, but there was no good time, and it would have been too obvious.
If it's just, only give it out when it's absolutely necessary, I just think that doesn't make sense. I just think he's an idiot.
Right. Then we have a scene that they spliced in here.
This is a webisode?
This isn't a webisode. This is just part of Nikki and Paulo's whole thing. They're looking for the bag. Nikki still thinks they'll be rescued.
Yeah.
They meet Ethan, because, of course, they do. And he's like, oh, it might have been scattered farther inland, so go look there.
Yeah.
And Boone took the water.
Inland.
Yeah. And they argue, and they give some whole thing.
And Jack is like, we need to start surviving.
Yeah, Jack gives a whole
I found
speech.
some water, so we're all good. We need to work together. Boone's a good man. He's just a dumbass. Because Jack is trying to be a leader, finally.
Yeah, so, it's this live together, die alone speech that it's iconic, but I don't care. Like, honestly, it's like one of the most...
I mean,
it's a huge thing in Lost, but I don't care about it.
I didn't dislike it, but if it's it didn't feel iconic to me. It felt like, yeah, that's the kind of speech you have the character give at this kind of point.
So, Jack talks to Kate about his father and everything. We see Sun doing something with plants. I forget what she was doing.
She was, I don't know what she was doing with plants. I just remember that she thanked Jin for getting her water. And it's still a weird vibe, but this leaned a little more into Jin is protecting her than Jin is trying to control her. Of course that goes well. But then we see, Michael giving water to Vincent, Sawyer asking Boone how it feels to be the most hated, which, yeah, you fucking dumbass Boone.
Yup. So then we're moving on to what was the next episode in the original, but it's just part of this. Kate jokingly asking Jack about his tattoos, which...
See, because once they mentioned this, then they're like, oh, well, we set that up as a Chekhov's gun, so now we have to do something with it.
Even though nobody cares about his stupid tattoos.
Yeah. I just remembered another thing I wanted to mention was we see Jin fishing a lot, and there's that irony because he was the son of a fisherman.
And he hated being the son of a fisherman,
yeah.
But now that's way more useful than his other life skills.
But also, he did life skills. What life skills other than beating people up? But
that's a life skill. Also, he was a hotel manager guy before that.
But anyway, he did come to terms with his father, which was nice.
Yeah.
God, if his father could see the asshole he's being.
This was a Jin and Sun flashback episode.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to tell you these flashbacks because they are so... Okay, so the flashbacks that were shown where First we see Jin and Sun when they were at that party where he's a waiter, and then they sneak off to go make out. Then we have Jin telling Sun he got permission to marry her. We don't see the meeting between Jin and the father. We just see him saying he got it. We have Jin bringing her the puppy that, we find out that he took from the guy. Jin with blood on his hands, washing them off, and Sun yelling at him. And then Sun trying to leave him with, planning with that woman, and then staying at the airport.
That is such a weird selection.
It's yeah.
Because I knew during the flashbacks that, there were some parts that were so, we understand Jin's perspective here, and there were some parts that seemed like they were painting it as Jin is, some asshole and we don't know his perspective at all. So I got that it would be bits and pieces, but that's such a weird selection. That doesn't even have her cheating on Jin and her learning English, which feel like big parts of her plotline of wanting to leave.
Yeah,
and
it really paints Jin as the complete bad guy when it's no, they both made some pretty big mistakes here. But it was more of a Sun episode really than a Jin.
Yeah, I mean,
episode.
Right now I'll give it that Sun is still great. It just feels like Jin is acting like such a jerk when he doesn't need to be.
Speaking of Jin acting like a jerk when he doesn't need to be, he attacks Michael just
out of nowhere. No logic to it, no explanation. He just tackles him. He pushes Walt, dick move. He's punching him in the face. I literally rewinded, whatever, just to see, did I miss something? And...
Well, you missed Michael wearing the gold watch.
Yeah, I missed that, but there wasn't, it felt so out of nowhere that I thought there was something I was supposed to see at the time, and there wasn't. So it's satisfying to see Saeed and Sawyer come up and work together to Saeed knocks him down, Sawyer picks Michael up, and it's they're handcuffing Jin, and it's justified.
Yeah. Also, I should say I kind of understand why Jin would be so desperate to get it back, because one, he thinks they're going to be rescued, and two, he was told that they'd be killed if he didn't bring that watch to the guy. So
okay, yeah, but. He does tell Sun in a bit, he's a thief, and it's I'm just saying, you have a language barrier. I am pretty sure you could have accomplished it by walking up to Michael, pointing at the watch, pointing at yourself over and over, gesturing. I think Michael could have gotten the idea, and I think Michael would have realized, oh, this is yours, yeah, I don't need to keep this.
So they handcuffed
it just feels
him to the wreckage.
Tackling him and trying to beat his ass is not how I would start.
Yeah, I will say this will be a running thing because they don't have the handcuff key. So at the end when they let him out, they just kind of chop off the chain. But he still has the handcuff on his hand.
Yeah.
And we go to a different group, which they're collecting water, and Charlie is almost out of heroin when Locke catches him. He's like, "Oh, you're standing on a beehive."
Yeah. That is just, you know what, you skipped a couple moments there, so I want to mention, looking at the cave, it's this cave looks cool, this is where you would build a Minecraft base.
No, okay, don't get me started on this cave, because this cave is terrible, because it is so tiny, because it's not a real place.
I know,
this is a set
I know it looks,
that
no,
they
I
built.
know, obviously the rocks look fake as hell, I just think the layout is cool.
No, the whole thing is a set that they built, and it's ugly, and it's they have this whole thing of, oh, should we live at the beach or should we live at the caves? It's oh, we should live at the caves for water, but we want to stay rescued if we're on the beach. Now, we know that they're not going to be rescued just by a signal fire, right? That's just not going to happen.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, you'd think they should move to the caves. But the caves are tiny and small and they try and make it look big, but this is a set, it is not a natural location, so it looks terrible compared to the beach, which is Hawaii, and of course they're going to stay on the beach. It's Hawaii. It looks so much better than the stupid caves. This is something that sounds great when you are not on location and you are just writing in a writer's room and you think, oh, there can be a thing between the caves and the beach. But when you're actually there in the location, it's oh, obviously we're going to use the natural setting for this island than some random set that we built, right?
Well, I liked it.
Yeah, so I hate it. This is a stupid plot line that I was talking about. because they're not going to end up staying at the caves. They're going to stay there for a bit, and then they're all just gonna eventually move to the beach for no real reason other than in real life the beach is prettier. Like,
anyway, the other thing I wanted to mention is that Jack is like, oh, we gotta look for medical stuff, look for drugs, and Charlie is like, drugs, right? And I'm like, God damn it, Charlie. But anyway, yeah. Then we get to the Beehive. Of all the early island survival pieces of drama that we get, the Beehive is the one that just got me like, really?
oh, just wait. I can think of 2 instances that are even worse than this.
It's just like, bees, first of all, I'm not the biggest fan of bees. It definitely just, like, watching them get swarmed by bees is something I'd rather not watch, if you know what I mean, so I'm glad we didn't get any close-ups of that. It also just feels like, of course, you stepped on it. And of course, like, it accidentally breaks for, like, so arbitrarily. And then it doesn't even cause them real problems. It's just like, oh, there are a few stings on Charlie later in the episode.
Yeah, so we go back to the beach where they're like, oh, Michael, what did you do? Why is Jin attacking you? And Michael's like, what? I didn't do anything.
Yeah,
it was racism.
didn't.
That's why I was attacked.
Well, look, I didn't expect them, like, Korean American and African American issues are a real thing that is complex, and I didn't expect the show to touch on it, and obviously it doesn't really, they're on an island, and later Michael says, oh, he doesn't really think that, but I found it, like, realistic and interesting that came out from him during an upsetting situation, because that seems like, yeah, the kind of thing somebody...
I mean, to him, he's like, there's no other reason for it. I was literally just walking with Walt, and then suddenly he attacked me, so that has to be the reason.
He is wrong, because the Korean and African American issues that's a Korean American thing, where Jin is just from Korea. Yeah, that's a very complex issue.
Right, so back to Kate, who's running from the bees, and she finds the skeleton of the man in black and his mother there.
Also,
and
she of course she had to take her clothes off.
Of course, I mean, it's that's just what you do. Yeah. Just like we had to have that scene of her just cleaning herself in the ocean for some reason.
When I saw themselves take their clothes off, I was like, oh, why would you do that? They're gonna cover your skin from the bees. That's like, okay, there were bees inside their clothes, sure. Feels a little convenient. It almost feels like the whole reason for the bees in the first place was just to get Kate's clothes off.
Yeah. Anyway, Jack is like, oh, they lived here, and they must have lived here for a long time because this clothing is at least 40 or 50 years old. And it's like, yeah, okay, sure, you're off by like 2,000 years, but okay.
Yeah, so this so this is the Men in Black's place specifically, because I saw that so many episodes ago. I don't know for sure, but this is like those bodies.
That's why the one of them also had a white and black stone in the clothes.
So this is really like, oh, season 6, they're finally explaining this from season 1. I bet they were happy about that.
Except it doesn't actually make sense because it's supposed to only be like 50 years old. Yeah. And so Charlie's like, wow, there could have been people here before us. And it's like, oh boy, you don't even know.
I mean, they do know about the signal from the...
They have a damn book club, like...
Anyway, we get, I think, Sun treating Jin's skin, and she's
some
like...
aloe vera.
And, yeah, she should just explain it. And, I think, so this came up later, but I realized I completely forgot for a while that Jin doesn't know Sun speaks English. And that explains so much more about why she would be hesitant because she doesn't want him to know.
Yeah, well, so before this, we get Walt saying, like, oh, what was that about the racism? And Michael's like, whatever.
He's just backpedaling.
Yeah, but then he's like, oh, do you think I'm the kind of guy, what did your mom tell you about me? And she's like, she didn't say anything about you. It's just like,
oof. But then it's like, Walt is like, wait, so it's like, Walt is like, you don't know anything about me. And it's like, what's my birthday? Michael knows. And he's like, what's my birthday?
You see, it took him a second, but he got there.
It took him a second, but like, I could see it not being on the top of his head considering that he spent years away from him. but he knows. And that I feel like the fact that he knows says a lot about Michael's feelings towards Walt over the course of the years where they weren't together.
So, anyway, we have more Kate and Jack flirting, doing whatever. Locke actually does know Charlie from his band, which is a thing. And Locke says that he has faith that Charlie will see his guitar again. So clearly he has already found it on the cliffside there.
Yeah. I was thinking like, oh, this is such a Locke faith moment. It's that kind of whole thing. And then it's like, oh no, he just saw it.
Yeah. We get arguments about whether to stay on the beach or to go to the caves. And
yeah, and it's just like, yeah, this is also...
In what the characters know, I can see how this is the thing of, like, the caves have the water and
I would
protection.
go to the cave. I would go to the caves for the water, just for the water. Like, everything you're saying...
If it were me, obviously the technical right choice is the caves because they're going to be there for a long time. But if it were me, and I had the information that these characters had, I would probably stay on the beach. I'd be like, I would hate myself so much if I went to the caves and a plane did pass by, or a boat or something, right?
The thing I feel like is just... I feel like you could really easily keep in contact between the two groups. You could set up a system where you send people back and forth and you keep general big access to water and safety while also maintaining some people to maintain the fire. Like, I feel like you can set up a system. It's not one or the other.
Exactly. And you would only actually really need to bring water back and forth when it hasn't rained for a while. When it rains, the beach is fine.
Or even if it did rain and you didn't need to, I feel like you could still have like a daily back and forth thing, just to make sure the groups are.
It's going to take so much to bring this for everyone. It's like, well, you don't have to have 5 people bring it for everyone. You can have people with their own personal water bottles come and get some when they need.
Yeah. And also it doesn't take like that many people to maintain the fire. And also like you can, cuz like we have Locke being a hunter, and it's like, okay, you can use that to exchange food for the beach when they need it.
Right. I would say Michael says he's going to try and stay by the beach because his number one priority is getting Walt off the island. So
yeah,
that's
that's like I like that they're giving reasons. I like that when people do stay on the beach, it's not just like, oh, I want to be saved. It's like he wants to be saved because Walt.
Yeah. Hurley's going to the cave. Sawyer's like, oh, I don't know, because I don't think they decided what his character really was yet.
Yeah.
And then this episode ends with Sun going to talk to Michael in English.
Just works as a cliffhanger.
Yeah, even though we already know exactly why she can speak English and we saw the entire sordid backstory.
Yeah. It's just like... And it's good to see her finally explaining, but it's also like Michael and Sun's relationship is like... We don't need that. We don't need like a romance.
Yeah. So Sun reveals that she knows English,
and of course,
I can't tell my husband about it. It's like, why not? And she looks at him and says, "My husband has a bad temper."
Just like the whole abusive Jin thing is just like that's how he's portrayed right now. We just know it's not really it.
Yeah, but it's also a pretty good explanation to Michael, considering he was just assaulted by him.
Michael will believe it.
Seemingly.
But also, I just like seeing Michael's reaction of just like, "What the fuck? You spoke English the whole time." It just because that is how I feel.
Yeah. So she is like, yeah, it's the watch. That's why.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Yeah. So then Locke goes. He takes Charlie's heroin in exchange for the guitar, and says like, oh, you have to give the island something to get something, which is not true, but he wants it to be true, so he forces it. And then he also says he said, I know a lot more about pain than you think, which is like, yep. Yes, he does.
Oh, he does. Now, to be fair, he's gone through emotional pain mostly.
Yeah, I mean, being pushed out of an 8-story window and going through rehab, that seems pretty tough. Also, recovering from kidney removal, that's also pretty tough.
Yeah, that's true.
So Kate wants to stay on the beach because she doesn't want to dig in somewhere, which is like, Oh, classic Kate. And Jack asks what she did, and she's like, "Oh, you had your chance. I'm not going to tell you. Because the writers don't want me to reveal it at this point."
Yeah. And
Michael shows up to Jin with a fire axe, and Jin is just like terrified.
And Michael, he gives such a satisfying speech about how dumb it all is, but Jin doesn't understand it.
He's like, I have to be with my kid, who I haven't been with forever, and I saw a watch, and I figured, I just take it, and it doesn't matter because we're on a fucking island.
And it's a great speech. It's just wasted.
Yeah, so chops off the chain to the handcuff, but they don't have the key, so Jin's gonna be wearing that handcuff for a while, I guess. Then we get a quick
chicken tackling.
Yeah, chicken tackling with the tail section, and Echo won't talk. Apparently, he hasn't talked.
He feels bad for that killing he did.
Or not weeks, because it hasn't even been weeks.
No, it's been. I think this was placed here because they say, "Oh, it's been a week," and that's why this scene is at this point.
Yeah, it's been 1 week since he killed the two others, and Libby says, that they weren't your fault, but he's just not talking. So back to the main section. This was a webisode.
Yeah, I could tell. There was so much weird about this. The resolution, the camera work looked cheaper. Sun's hair looked whack as heck. It was just off on so many levels.
Yeah. Jin thinks Shannon and Boone are a couple, which hilarious. Everybody keeps clocking it, but then they go back on it. And Sun is like, no, they're brother and sister. And he's like, how do you know that? Do you speak English? And she's like, no. We have Arst. And then, this is that guy's name that he shows up everywhere. He was in the airport.
Does he matter?
I mean, he's like a recurring minor character.
I was kind of baffled by the focus he got here.
Yeah, it was like, oh, hey, let's do a webisode for this small
and he's
character,
just freaking
right?
out. He's like, oh, there's bugs and moisture. And Hurley's like, I trust Jack. And he's like, wow, they hear the smoke monster. He's like, I'll see you at the caves. And I don't know, it felt pointless to me.
Yeah, then we get another terrible music montage.
Oh my god, this was awful.
Yeah, so can we just skip over all this?
Look, the only thing that needs to be mentioned is that Walt asks Michael when his birthday is.
Yes, that's the only important part. And I'm like, oh my god, Hurley, please let your... What is this? A Walkman?
Yeah. And I was thinking... Oh yeah, the other thing
let your Walkman battery die already. We don't need another song.
That's gonna run out of battery, I think.
Yeah, it will. So I'm like, hurry up and
cannot wait.
Run out of battery already.
Hurley's music taste kinda sucks.
Yeah, so now we get Charlie, who is going through withdrawals.
Yep.
And I think I don't know for sure, but I think heroin withdrawals are withdrawals that can kill you.
Oh yeah, so, I'm pretty sure it's just one of the worst.
Which is probably good that he's actually had his little baggie.
Yeah, and I'm sure he was rationing it, taking it a little at a time. That probably was good for him.
Trying to, even if unintentionally, just weaning himself off, because I don't think that's one you can really quit cold turkey. You have to take it in steps, I think.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, that's actually a health risk, I'm pretty sure.
Anyway,
but anyway, so
Jack
obviously this was a Charlie episode, right?
Oh, yeah.
So here are the flashbacks. I'm just going to tell you because, again, it was all split up. We have Charlie in the confessional booth. We have when Liam stole his lines at the show and yelled at him about it. We have Charlie trying the heroin for the first time at another show. And then we have him in Australia and his brother not joining the tour.
Huh, that skips a lot.
It skips a lot.
That kind of like it doesn't explain at the time what happened to put his brother in Australia and clean.
Yeah, it's just...
Does it even show that his brother was the bigger drug addict?
Yeah, that's how it happens. It shows his brother started the drugs, got Charlie into it, and then his brother got clean and isn't helping Charlie in the way that Charlie wants to be helped.
So anyway, Charlie... Well, I think what we get this episode is we get a little bit of Jack and Kate talking. Kate won't go to the cave because she wants to help Saeed's plan, which you have told me that plan is not going to work.
Wait, what was Saeed's plan?
Like, to triangulate, to find the source of that signal.
Oh, not that it won't work, but it was the last time he tried to do it, it won't work when I was mentioning it. I mean, obviously you'll see this time it doesn't work either, because but that's for different reasons. No, when I talked about it last time, I meant in the past tense of, well, we know it won't work, because as we saw in the episode, the transmitter didn't, whatever. What was it, Kate dropped the antenna last time?
Okay. Alright, well, then I still have the unknown of what is coming.
Same result, though, it still doesn't work here.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so that's why Kate is staying, and Sawyer is just taking Jack's tent, because Sawyer moment. But Charlie is walking, looking for Locke, gets chased by an animal, which gets trapped, and Charlie wants his drugs.
Yeah, and so Locke says, I'll let you ask 3 times, and then I'll give them back to you. So
I get what Locke is going for here. You want Charlie to make the choice. That will make Charlie stronger. And he's right. Like, yes, that will make Charlie stronger, and, like, it is good for Charlie in the end, and it ends up working. But I still feel like I would have just thrown away the drugs. I would have just taken away the possibility.
Yeah, that's true. But Locke is still trying to present himself as this figure who's important and amazing.
Like, he knew that Charlie would make the right choice.
Right. So Kate tries to go get the battery from Sawyer, and he's being a dick. And she completely clocks him, where she says, "You don't want off this island, because there's nothing for you to go back to. Nobody you miss, and nobody who misses you."
He does have he does have a daughter.
Who doesn't know about him?
Yeah, but I feel like, there's gotta be a point where he is gonna start to consider, maybe I want to go back to see my daughter.
He never saw her the entire time she was born, and obviously he set up that whole college fund thing for her, but she's not going to know that till she turns 18.
Yeah.
And he completely burned bridges with Cassidy, so that's not a thing.
Oh, that is as burned as... Like, I know a bit from the time travel arc. Like, Sawyer was stuck on the island, but Kate was back. And I think Kate talked to Cassidy, and Kate, saw his daughter, Clementine. And, it's good for Sawyer that he wasn't the one to go there, because Kate can talk to her, but if he showed up, Cassidy would have beat his ass.
She should, honestly. I would have been glad for it.
Oh, yeah. Maybe in season 6.
Yeah, so we have Charlie, who's scavenging around trying to get some prescription drugs.
Yeah, he's looking for opioids.
Yeah, to take, but nope, can't find... any of those. Oh, we have Jin telling Sun to cover up, and she says no.
And it's Jin, it's fucking hot.
We have Charlie just feeling shut out and useless and everything. And look, I get this. There are characters I absolutely stan who go through the arcs of feeling useless and trying to do something great, and then they mess up and it gets even worse and everything.
I have characters I stan who feel useless too.
Yeah, no, trust me. I love that Shinji Ikari, Makoto from Persona. Like, I love that.
I love Usopp.
This is not one of those that I love. I'm like, I like it because you're doing a trope that I love, but you're doing it poorly, so you're on thin ice, Charlie. Like,
nah, see, I don't take it as Charlie really... Like, I think if Charlie was not going through withdrawal, he would not go through this I feel useless thing. Because he has no reason to be useless. I think it's just kind of he feels like shit because he's in withdrawal, and it's driving him to think other negative things.
Well, I actually think it does tie back into his whole backstory. Obviously, they hadn't come up with this backstory by this point, but the whole thing with the rich girl that he was going to steal from, but then he ended up feeling for her, and at the end, she's like, you're horrible. You're never going to be able to take care of anyone, and that got to him. Honestly,
I don't know. Maybe I'm just anti-Charlie bias here, but...
Well, obviously you are. So I don't think that's been hidden.
I'm not feeling that as something that ties in. It's not hitting me.
Anyway, then this is possibly one of just the worst island. There's a cave in, and this is the most fake fucking cave. I hate this entire...
so there's a lot I don't understand about the cave in.
See, I think I'm biased against this, not because I'm biased against Charlie, but because I'm biased against this entire cave storyline.
Yeah.
So when it's a fucking cave in, I'm like, fuck off.
I just don't understand it because I don't understand if it's supposed to be dirt or rock at a lot of points. Because on one hand, it looks like there's just a big pile of rocks where, like, yeah, keep moving those rocks out of the way and it'll open up again. And on the other hand, it's like they dug a tunnel through, and it's like, was that tunnel just... Because it doesn't feel like they went deep in to dig. It feels like that tunnel was already there and they just opened the way to it, maybe? But I don't understand. Is it rock? Because you don't really dig through rock like that. It looks like... But then when he's crawling through, it looks like rock. It looks like that would have collapsed if it wasn't rock. I don't know. There's just a lot of levels to it where I don't understand how it works. I kind of see
from the writer's room perspective of what they're trying to do, which is it caves in, the main entrance is gone, and they're able to open a tiny hole that's small enough for Charlie to fit through so that he can do this thing. But then trying to do this with this terrible fucking set, they can't. It looks awful.
Yeah, I mean, I liked the cave when they came to live there, but in terms of, like, it making any sense for them to be digging through it or making holes or being stuck... Yeah, it's not even like I'm criticizing it so much as like I was straight up confused by it.
Oh, that reminds me of one time. There's this one season of Survivor where they're like, oh, we have like a natural kind of cave overlook thing, so let's build our shelter there. And it was the worst thing because they put all of their like bamboo tree things against this like dirt cliff wall, and so it just let a ton of fucking bugs crawl all over them all the time, and they hated it.
Damn.
That's what it reminds me of. So, okay, here's another thing. Yeah. So Saeed, they have this whole thing of like, oh, we shouldn't have survived the crash. We should have died because we went barreling through the jungle and blah blah blah. And people again use this, oh my god, they actually did die. No, they fucking didn't.
They got
lucky. Are here. It's also, I have to wonder, all these people who say they died in the plane crash. I'm like, how do you explain Ben and Juliet and Desmond, who interact with these people and clearly did not die? Like, Juliet took the safest route possible to get to the island. What the fuck?
Oh, Juliet is just fictional.
Right. Juliet's fictional, Ben's fictional, the entire Dharma thing is fictional. This whole thing just collapses as soon as you actually think about it for 1 second.
Don't worry about how people come back and forth from the rest of the world and the island with the other submarine. It's a magic submarine that takes you between limbo and reality.
Yeah. Oh my fucking god, they probably would say that. Oh my god, I can totally see someone, actually the submarine stands for like the river Styx and going through that. I could see some fucking forum poster writing that, honestly.
And they're saying it as though it's obvious, like we all should have realized it.
Yeah, so Shannon gets put in charge of the flare on the beach. Which is funny because it leads to this like very minor storyline of like, is Shannon really gonna fuck up the simplest task?
I was like,
and then when she doesn't, I'm like, yeah, go Shannon.
Yeah, I was so worried when I saw this. I was like, oh my god, why would you give this to Shannon? Don't make me worry. Like, you could literally just pick one of the random background characters and just say, hey, can you do this?
Well, I think it was Boone, because Boone was supposed to be in charge of the thing, so he gave it to Shannon. So
yeah, Boone, you idiot. But yeah, she does it, and it's like, oh shit, it's like a relief. I'm not even like, go Shannon, I'm like, thank fuck you didn't fuck it up, Shannon.
It's not that she actually accomplished anything, it's that she didn't fail something.
The bare minimum.
Yeah, so we have a scene where Sawyer basically just makes Charlie feel even more useless.
Yeah. And
we have
I do
Michael
like
examining the cave-in because he does construction. So
I do question construction expertise on cave-ins, but
I don't know about that.
I question it, but I do like seeing Michael being competent and in charge of the situation and to understand and know what he's doing.
Sawyer goes to go tell Kate that Jack has died in a cave-in, but then she's rude to him, so he doesn't.
Yeah, which is like, holy shit, Sawyer.
Yeah,
like, holy shit. That is like actually one of his biggest dick moves yet.
Yeah, we have
it's not as big as shooting the marshal and fucking that up, but it's up there.
Yeah, we have Charlie asking for drugs again, and Locke gives this whole moth analogy, which is like, cool analogy.
I don't know. As soon as he pointed out as soon as he pointed out a cocoon, I was just like, okay, the most basic, bare minimum symbolism metaphor for somebody doing character development is the goddamn cocoon. Of course they had to go for that.
My favorite thing is, I forget, you've seen some of American Dad, right?
Oh, yeah.
Did you see the Ricky Spanish episode?
Oh, yeah, I love that episode.
I love that because they do the whole cocoon thing, but Ricky never changes. So then when they show the butterfly escapes the cocoon, but it's trapped in a jar and then dies. So it never goes anywhere. So this whole moth analogy, we see that Jack is not dead, he's just pinned.
Yeah, of course not.
By the rubble.
Of course. There was... I think even if I was watching this in release order, I would not have thought Jack was dead for a second. I just would have known the episode plot is getting Jack out.
Right, so Sawyer helps to set up the antenna with Kate.
Saeed doesn't trust Sawyer with Kate, which
because
is
why
fair.
would you? Because Sawyer is trash.
And then they need somebody small to crawl in, and it's like, oh boy, the thing only Charlie can do. You know what?
Well, I think they said other people could do it, but Charlie's like, you guys have families and everything, and I'm here alone.
I'll just give him, like, the cave is dumb, but they did an effective enough Charlie learns how to be useful. It wasn't, like, it worked as a character arc. It's not going to make me like Charlie, but I'm not going to say this was, like, stupid that he got to be useful.
Yeah, and then so, like, a second cave-in happens, and Charlie is, like, also trapped. And then, obviously, Jack realizes that Charlie has been going through withdrawals.
You know what the tunnel that Charlie crawls through reminds me of?
What?
Did you ever play the Simpsons game?
Yes.
And there's the sections where you control Maggie, and there's always there's a random tiny tunnel you need someone tiny to crawl through. Control Maggie to go through this section.
I think we're thinking of a different Simpsons
game.
The
one that was called the Simpsons game. Because there's obviously a lot of Simpsons game, but there was literally one with the title The Simpsons Game.
Is that the
it
one
was like the action...
is that the one where you defeat God at the end?
Yeah,
by
the action adventure. Hero? The action adventure one, yeah.
Okay, I've played that maybe. I barely remember that, but okay, yeah. Okay, so he's like Maggie in this scenario.
The point is having tiny places to crawl through is like the most contrived video game level design thing, where I feel like that just doesn't happen in real caves, or if it does, you just get stuck in there and die, like that diver who got stuck upside down. So, like, the fact that this
don't remind me of that guy. That's such a sad story.
Yeah. But anyway, it feels like that should have been what happened to Charlie, just in realistically, what would you find in a cave? You wouldn't find, like... You wouldn't find a perfect tunnel that is perfectly sized for you to crawl through that leads in there. It just feels so ridiculous that would be present.
Right. Oh, and then Charlie notices a moth in the cave, and it's like, that's how we can get out. Moth analogy. Oh my god.
Yeah, and it's like, as soon as he notices the moth,
Charlie
I was like,
crawls out of the metaphorical cocoon.
Please be less heavy-handed about this symbolism. Please. Also, we had Sawyer revealing to Kate that Jack died, and it's like, wow, fuck you, Sawyer. So Kate has to leave and shows and helps dig, and yeah, whatever. Also, Charlie had to pop Jack's shoulder back in, which good job, Charlie.
Yeah, that's uncomfortable. So yeah, they get out, and then we see everybody fire the flares, even Shannon.
Even Shannon, honestly, even Sawyer is what got me.
Right.
Because I actually...
And then right as Saeed is triangulating the signal, he gets knocked out.
Yeah.
I will say, this will start a trend. I think you've seen this a lot in the 70s arc. Lost really likes to have characters just, like, mildly hit someone on the head and cause them to instantly pass out.
Yeah,
like,
it's such...
the fucking time.
It's such a TV trope. I think we both know that doesn't work in real life. You give someone a concussion, you give someone brain damage, knocking someone out is really bad. But when you're writing it, Lost just seems like the exact kind of TV show where you're going to use the hell out of knocking someone unconscious as a plot device.
That really reminds me of American Dad. I don't know if you saw Tearjerker 2, that one.
I did. I don't remember it perfectly.
Right, at one point, the main character gets a gun knocked to the back of his head, which is a common thing in Lost too. That's how they'll knock someone out.
Yeah.
And then he's being tied up and he's being dragged along this sidewalk. And then when they get to a curb, as his head goes from the curb sidewalk to the street, it knocks him out a gun, and they're like, wow, he really passes out easily. That's what everyone is on Lost.
I just want a scene where someone hits them and they're like, ow, why did you do that?
Yeah. That's not going to happen on this show, though. It will always work.
Yeah.
Unless you're actually in a fist fight. Then you can stay conscious.
Yeah, so anyway, obviously, I'm on a big cliffhanger of who hit Saeed. Is it the others? That's the obvious guess. Why did they find him? Why do they want him? What do they want to stop him from doing? Is it somebody else who betrayed them? I don't even know. I hope I'll find out next episode.
Well, we know Ethan's at their beach, so...
Yeah.
That's something. Then Kate makes Jack a sling, and they have a whole other scene, which is whatever. Charlie, and then the episode ends where Charlie asks for his drugs again and burns them.
I called that Charlie would burn them as soon as he asked them. I was like, oh yeah, he's gonna throw them in the fire. That doesn't make it bad that I called it. But, yeah.
Right. And so here's the thing. So obviously Charlie's going to continue to just be going through heroin withdrawal. But the show is only going to, lightly ever touch on it now. Because, well, we did the whole episode about it.
Yeah.
So...
Can't wait for them to find the plane.
Oh my god, yeah. When the plane just filled to the brim with fucking heroin.
Anyway, so Charlie. I'm not a Charlie fan. I'll give it to him that him figuring out he's useful and him deciding to burn the drugs, that's not bad. That worked. It's not like I'm like, oh, fuck you, Charlie, still, when he does that. Like, yeah, that was fine. But if he just asked for the drugs back and kept using them, I kind of would have bought it. But honestly, that's only half a fuck you, Charlie thing. That's half me just knowing how bad heroin withdrawal is. Not from experience, but just having that passing knowledge of that's really bad. I could see somebody just falling for it.
Yeah. That's basically where we are. This episode ends where an actual episode ends, the Charlie episode. So we're starting fresh.
Yeah, it seemed like
next time. And, again, we're just kind of going through the season 1 plot, so I don't think there's really much to say, unless we have anything more.
I mean, I think the only, major prediction I can have is Saeed hit by the others? When are the others going to start coming in? I think the others aren't going to start coming in yet, because I think the writers would want to get a lot more mileage out of early island survival before bringing in the others.
Okay, so you think it's one of the plane people?
No, I think it's the others, but I think we're just nothing's gonna happen with it. We're not gonna find out much next episode or for a while.
I will say, I don't know if it's next episode. I will say, in the next few episodes... Again, this is the next few episodes of the show, so it might be sooner in chronologically. I think we do find out who it was.
Yeah,
so, any guesses?
We might find out who it it could just be Ethan. I don't think it would be Sawyer. Nah, he launched the rocket. See, in terms of, people from the plane, I'm like, if it's not Ethan, then, everybody was busy. Everybody was somewhere. I'm not sure who wasn't accounted for, except Ethan.
Well, I know who it was, and I'm excited to see whether or not you were right or wrong.
Well, what I feel like is it could very well just be someone from the others, being like, "Oh, we don't want this guy to find us. Let's knock him out."
I will say it is a character. It is a character that you know. They're not introducing someone new.
Well, for all I know, it could be Ben. But what I'm saying is we might find out.
You think Ben does this stuff himself?
I think.
You think he doesn't send proxies?
Well, what I'm thinking is I think we might find out who it was through something that would have been a flashback from the other's perspective, or just something where we wouldn't know it during season 1 normally, or at this point in season 1. But I'm just thinking I feel like like, we're not going to see this plotline not go anywhere. I think it'll be a mystery of who hit Saeed, and we might get a little bit of that. I just don't think we're going to get any major other stuff for a while.
Okay, so I think that's it for this episode, unless there's anything else.
God damn it, Jin.
Yes, oh, I can't wait till we actually get to episodes that have Jin flashbacks and he can start being someone that we like.
I can't wait until he reunites with Sun in Season 6.
Oh, that's long ways away.
Yes,
so I hope you will join us for the next episode, where we will be covering episode 32, September 30th to October 3rd, 2004, day 9 to 12, and episode 33, October 3rd to 7th, 2004, day 12 to 6.